So in order for me to also give you a bit of background about myself, I'm currently a partner at 07Ventures, which is a revenue accelerator and a fund. Prior to that, I was one of the initiators or founders of Lithuanian Business Angel Network. It's a network of wealthy individuals now uniting over 188 people. So once your idea is validated and you need early funding, Litban is a good place to be, as well as feel free to talk to me throughout. It's my third batch in the UTA Hub where I'm lecturing and a mentor to a few startups. And from the previous 2 batches, we invested in 2 companies. So it's not only that I do lecturing, but I do invest in 2 companies through 07Ventures. And in general, I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2014, or my first probably more structured business development opportunity. And it is quite a funny story. So I studied in Denmark and then moved back to work in SEB. And one day, my two friends come over in the morning of Saturday and say, "Vytenis, let's go and check out. There's some pitches happening in a university close by." And it was 2014, where startups were not yet that popular, at least in Lithuania. And so we went to that university, and it was basically around 50 to 100 pitches. And the university said they will select 8 companies and give a very fancy co-working space, as well as 10,000 litas grant. So 10,000 litas corresponds to around 2.8 thousand euros. So we went, we listened to those pitches and said, "Oh, they suck, nothing good. We can do better." And we went back, created 2 ideas over the next weekend, and came back to pitch 2 weeks after. Both of those pitches worked well. We did a good presentation, and we won 2 out of 8 seats in that co-working space with around 5,000 euros in grant. So since we were 3, we decided, 2 of us decided to quit our jobs and do that full time. So again, we didn't validate our ideas, nothing possible to do within a week. We just were creative and good presenters. So eventually then we quit our jobs, well-paid jobs, started working on it, and burned all of our savings during the year. Not only the cash that we received as a grant. So during that year, we built our own experience on how to actually start from customers, not start from development, how to actually sell. We were able to secure a few customers, but then after a year decided that this is not gonna fly, and we actually quit it. My colleague went to work. He actually had a very, very senior role in Revolut, and now has moved to US to live. Whereas I joined one angel investor into helping him with investing into startups. That led me to Litban, and that eventually led me to 07Ventures. So when I'm addressing this issue of lean startup, of validating your idea, it's not because I read a few books or because I am a good consultant to some of the startups. It's because I actually know the pain of doing it, losing it, and understanding how painful it sometimes is to pivot. We did a few pivots, and how painful it is when you need to decide to quit. And my personal takeaway from that 2014-15 journey is that it's extremely expensive, and what I could regret is not capital, that I burned all of my savings, but rather that I could have done that not in a year, but if I had the proper tools, I could have done that within 3 months, and that would have saved me a lot of time, maybe I would try and validate other ideas as well. And looking back afterwards, we found 2 startups that successfully made it in the space we were developing. We just needed it to pivot into certain angles that we didn't see or didn't run specific tests. So that would be my personal story. And some of you I saw booked one-on-ones with me over this week. Unfortunately, no more is available. Victoria sent me the list for this week, but I would be happy to meet with you next week if you want. If you will see value, or will you will need some guidance there. So what I would like to offer and do now is that if you could one by one introduce briefly, take a minute to introduce and say the startup, what it does, and what challenge do you have, the biggest challenge at the moment. Go ahead, Augustine.
Yeah, I thought it's best to start. My startup is called Business Process Improvement, if it was translated to English. The goal of it is to create tools that make accountants and bookkeepers work more efficient and more productive. And the problem that I'm facing right now is finding a competitive edge. Basically, what kind of value to create that is not being created elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tade?
Yes, hi. So my name is Tadas. I'm the CEO and founder of Korepetitus, and it's a tutors marketplace. So basically, you can find a tutor according to your needs, book a time, and have online lectures. And we also have a MVP working, but to make our team stronger, we are looking for a CTO, and that's our main challenge at the moment, as we are currently outsourcing our platform and its development. So yeah, we need a strong technical person in our team.
Okay, thank you. Giava?
Yeah, hello. So we are a startup of 2 friends, and we design and plan to manufacture a multifunctional outdoor items, beach bags and rugs made from marine plastics. So this is our idea about
very good.
What we are going to do. Mm-hmm.
Then Karina?
Hello, I'm Karina from Rückmal, and we solve the problem of back pain by making every existing table you have at home height adjustable. And our challenge we're dealing at the moment is securing all the rights, like the patents, etc. And I also didn't book a one-on-one yet. So if you have some available next week, I would be very happy if I could get a slot.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's then catch up over email and arrange that.
Mm-hmm. All right, sounds great.
Darius?
My name is Darius. I'm the CEO of Curitido, and we are creating a platform which allows to personalize the items in many cases, which helps to decrease marketing marketing costs for the companies.
I'm not sure if I follow. How do you personalize items, or
through QR code and augmented reality solution, which will work with no app needed with any smartphone.
Okay.
And the problem we are looking is which way to choose of the funding, or even try to go without funding at all. It's possible to find this way because it's not so expensive solution.
Clear. Thank you, Dario. Simone?
Yes, hello. So my name is Simonas. Me and Matas and Dominikas, I think, are in the chat. We are from Tvux Technologies, and we are trying to reimagine of how to program gadgets like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, and make that easier, and not only easier for non-engineers, but also to make it more robust and kind of more closer to industrial grade stuff, so it can work for months unattended. And we are here mostly for the business side of things. We are all free engineers, so we are now diving into business side and all of it.
Thank you. Mante?
Hey, I'm from Resti. We are a team of 2 with Franciscus, and we are making a SaaS platform for any type of reservations. Well, our vision is to have a reservation platform for any type of reservation, even it's daily, hourly, or events. Right now we have hourly reservations, we have MVP, we are collecting users, and the biggest problems right now for us is to find the right segment and of course funding as well.
Okay. Funding plus segment. Dovydai?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dovydas, CEO at Upseto. The main idea behind Upseto is streamlining the customer support process so that customer support people can actually see the screens of their app users or whatever application users in real time and jump in to help people immediately. And the biggest issues that we're facing right now is finding the second co-founder. And I'm sort of at a crossroads because I saw some people like sending in inquiries for me to sell the startup. I mean, I'm like at the crossroads between this and also looking probably for funding.
Sounds good. So good problem if someone wants to acquire your startup.
Well, I did market it a little bit on Reddit and on other sort of niche platforms, but yeah.
Do you have any paying customers?
No, I have a list of 51 company, but I'm still like trying to finalize the integrations, all the integrations like Slack, Zendesk, so I can release the full package. Because most of these customers, they want integration, external integrations, and without them, they don't want to use it.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, Agla?
Hey, I'm a founder of Letry, a company that wants to send letters to kids and communicate to kids by post, by mail. My main challenge now is to conceptualize the content that I want to write, whereas it should be educational content or general, or just, you know, focus on kids' literacy skills. And currently I launched MVP. I started sending letters. I already have 6 orders since I launched it 4 days ago and didn't do much marketing. But my main challenge now is to make everything happen and because I have deadlines, I have, you know, to make it real and fulfill my what I said I will do. That's it.
Thank you, Agla. Armina?
Hi, everyone. Our startup is called Rookies, and we are helping companies who are looking for young talent by creating a bridge between companies and young people and translating job titles and company cultures in a way that young people can actually understand it. We're going to validate it first on social media. And since entering the accelerator, we have Orange, British American Tobacco, McDonald's, UiPath, Bolt, and 2 other companies who have said yes to this initiative. And pretty soon we're going to start recording interviews with their employees, and hopefully everything will go well. In terms of challenges, I think we just, it's about go to market in terms of young people. This is the stage we're in.
Clear. Thank you. Ignay?
Yes, hello everybody. We are trying to develop a platform for sports where you can compete every day First of all, we'll start from basketball game. So you can find in this platform easy find another player or tournament. And in case of winning scenario, you can win some crypto. So now we're finding out how to use this platform on blockchain and how to use cryptos in that platform.
Thank you. Elana?
Hello, Gitas. It's nice to have you here. Sorry, I'm not on the camera yet. So I represent the team of Oli. There are 2 of us in the team, and we are building the customer experience testing and management system that uses real people's feedback and runs automated tests. We don't really have like a challenge or problem at the moment because we have a very clear goal to build the MVP and find a few first customers. And we really hope to do it by the end of the Tech Hub.
Okay, and what kind of testing? I missed the first word of your sentence. Cosmetics, or what was it?
Sorry, could you repeat?
What kind of testing?
Oh,
what kind of product?
Customer experience. That is basically anything in B2C business from
customer experience testing. Clear.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, then we have Jonas.
Hello, I'm here with my colleague Ignas Koncevičius. Currently, we're creating a medical device which can detect various diseases symptoms by using human body sounds and artificial intelligence. Our challenges at the moment I would say it will be finalizing electronic prototype and funding.
Clear. Thank you. And then Marius, we have Marius as well.
So I'm Marius and I'm representative of Stardust company. We try to produce scooter charge station with to offer for market new service like sharing service, scooter sharing service.
Super, thank you, Mario. So we have, I think if that's all, then we have 14 teams. That's an amazing number. Thank you very much for attending. It's exciting. It's exciting to hear all of your ideas. They're definitely brilliant, and I would be glad if I can help you in any way. So my first observation from all 14 that presented, none of you except probably Elana has mentioned sales as their #1 challenge, which is a bit strange because at this early stage, it's typically probably the first thing you should do. And most of my introduction to lean startup will be around sales. What I like in Armina's presentation was that she needs to figure out go-to-market. And I believe basically from all of your stages, and maybe we'll deep dive into more details, go-to-market is the key essence. But even before that, we need to validate the main assumptions on what you need to check. Is there anyone from those 14 teams that is actually generating revenue already? Tade, are you generating? Super. Mario, you raised Agle is generating revenue. That's great. Okay, we have two companies that generates revenue. That's already a great result. So then please also be active on how did you manage to do that, because I believe your problems will be a bit different from the rest of your cohort, and it's very important to start that as soon as possible. Then if we look what the results I want to achieve, or I believe you should also want to achieve after this session or after this week, the entire acceleration program, is to confirm or deny the hypothesis about your customer by running a structured test under the following circumstances. Do customers recognize they have a problem you are trying to solve? It's a very important question to ask yourself. Because if they don't, in some cases they don't, but if they don't, you need to invest heavily in educating them that they do have a problem. And that's always very capital intensive. Then the second part, if there was a solution, would they buy it? Because sometimes there are plenty of solutions, but for some reason, customers don't buy it. So in many cases, they use Excel, they use already predefined systems on how to solve a specific problem with alternative methods. And in that case, it's also, if there are many solutions, but they are not buying yours, you need to understand, is there a return on investment on what they will buy? And the third most important thing is, would they buy it from you? So also give this question to yourself. Why are you different? Why should someone buy a solution and trust you? Because in the beginning, if I give you my money, I need to first of all trust whether it's B2C, your website, your presence, if it's your social media, if it's B2B, and sometimes it's interaction with you as a person, the value proposition, how you deliver it, and so on. So please bear in mind those 3 points and try to think on how would you answer into them. Then the practical assignment, from hearing all of your businesses, they are all over the place. From hardware to business to consumer, from marketplace to business, software as a service, and so on. And we cannot create a one practical assignment for all of you guys. It will be unfair. And I will give you throughout this session several tools that you will be able to engage during your homework session or during the workshop. You should engage with each other, and then we can have a fruitful discussion on those practicalities. In essence, the key objective is to generate leads and engage with your ideal customer profile, your audience, because then you will know best what to expect. So I will not surprise you with the timeline. So today we have a seminar. Tomorrow you will have practical assignments. Who has already booked one-on-ones, I will have those tomorrow. Then on Wednesday we will have a workshop. Mainly it can also serve as one-on-ones, as a group, where if you have questions from today where you thought through, then we can work on that. And then on Friday, if you need, we can, on Friday, no, but all the catch-ups, if you need or anything from me, I'm quite flexible next week, and we can do it next week. It's mainly because I have a very important deadline on Monday, and I'm still preparing a long document for that. So feel free to engage with me over email to book those one-on-ones. I will be happy to speak with you if needed. Then the plan for today, most of it is based on Lean Startup. If you have not read this book, I really recommend, because it's kind of a mantra in the startup space. So we will go through, we already did the introduction. We will firstly try to verify your assumptions, understand what kind of assumptions do you have, how to test the hypothesis, what is an MVP and how to validate it, then ways to find paying customers at this early stage, and then how to measure whether you have a viable business model. Open for the discussion always. You can keep it for the end, but I think if you engage now, just raise your hand, then I will react to that. So maybe someone knows what is a Lean Startup. Anyone wants to give a shot?
Go ahead.
Armina, you started. Just go ahead.
Sorry, from what I know it's like a model that helps startups, but not just startups, scale by making it more efficient to go from idea to implementation, going to market, and then back to idea implementation and going to market, rather than doing everything all together from the beginning.
Yeah. So a startup is a method of, or a startup operates in extreme, you're right. A startup operates in extreme uncertainty. So if you're tapping into a market that is for sure certain, you may have a very good business. You may even have a very good business growth model. But in essence, if you have a lot of uncertainty on your business model, on your product, on the research and development you're conducting, then this is considered to be extreme uncertainty. And the lean startup, in essence, is a method to systematically address an uncertainty through rapid iteration or market tests. So an interesting example from startups is, let's say, they create an innovation in some field. Sometimes this innovation doesn't go alone, so they need to innovate other things in terms of process, in terms of go-to-market, in terms of many things. And then, of course, when you innovate, you at least should have some of it constant and not change what is already working. So there's this interesting story about a company called, how is it called? Square from the US. So it's a similar company to iZettle or SumUp, if you know these ones. But basically, they do this small square point of sales. So instead of having those terminals that most of our restaurants and shops have, where you tap your card, they have a very simple point of sales terminal that cost them to produce around €1. And they started this startup in 2014 when fintechs were just becoming. They started in the US. They of course have a few copycats, iZettle and SumUp, and probably much more. But the idea the guys had is that why banks don't offer point of sales machines to small merchants. And eventually they realized that the banks considered those small merchants as unprofitable, despite that it's a huge market. They are not offering nothing close to that. And that's why small merchants have to only accept cash. In essence, then the founders were already experienced founders and came to innovate and decided or visioned a very small squared point of sales terminal, well designed, and they went into it. If Steve Jobs would create it, how would it look? And they did that. Then they needed to somehow connect it to the internet and to all equipment. And they decided that iPhones will be a good place to start. So with that in mind, they looked, and iPhones were in a very closed environment. So then again, they needed to innovate, and they hacked the iPhone with the first application that would connect to the iPhone through the headphones jack. So again, they kind of innovated in an innovation. Then, of course, MasterCard and Visa were reluctant to even allow a new vendor into this market. So they needed to be very bold and innovative again into how they would get access to Visa or MasterCard. So they somehow got a meeting with MasterCard's top executives. And then in that meeting, their system was already operational, but due to legal policies of MasterCard, they could not accept payment because that would be kind of fraudulent, and they could even go to jail because they did it. And in that meeting, they asked one of the executives of MasterCard to tap his card, and they deducted $1 from his card. And the guys in MasterCard thought it was fake or faking it, but eventually through a series of hacks, they actually hacked it and got the dollar's payment. Whereas actually convincing. So they went into this really poker mood, trying to figure out whether they will convince the guys or the lawyers will shut down the startup. And eventually they convinced MasterCard to open up to them and allow them to operate under this environment. Then Visa followed, and they had to also put a lot of efforts in the innovation of how they distribute those point of sales machines and how they onboard small micro businesses onto their platform, because banks didn't do that well. That's why they didn't want even to go into this market, as they considered it to be too costly. Whereas these guys innovated in those 4 key areas and experimented and put the hypothesis and validated them within their first few years of doing business, and hacked the market. They didn't innovate in how they recruit people. They didn't innovate in other parts of the business, but those were the key 4 hypotheses they needed to test and go through. So this is one of the stories, an interesting for me story that was to read in analyzing how people actually test and validate ideas. So in essence, this approach of lean startup should help us validate how a new product or service should be built, and should we even build it and put our efforts there. How can we increase our odds of success in doing it? So those two questions are the main ones when you think of lean startup. Then I'm not sure if we need to go through terminology, but let's say if you have any questions or some of these words are new to you, please let me know. If not, I'm happy to go further. Okay.
Sorry, I want to ask, what is that validated learning?
Very good question. So validated learning is that you put yourself out to the market, and if you have a hypothesis, you just don't collect a lot of theory on solving your hypothesis, because you can be biased. You know, like if I'm doing a research paper, especially on a business topic, I can find arguments for and I can find arguments against. So validated learning would be that we put a very definitive hypothesis, and then we go and meet our ideal customer profile to see if we can validate it. And the key importance here is that we are not going, so a very bad thing to go and say, will you buy my product? I'm a nice guy. I will say, of course. I will not want to ruin your motivation. Just go and build it, and then I decide when you build it. Super idea. But if we look from the other end, it's a very harmful idea for you. If I never intend to buy and I say it's super cool, just go and build it, and when you build it, I might buy it, then it's basically you take all the risk and I take none of the risk, and we'll have a model on that. But in essence, if you say, pay me today, then you might receive a very fast no. So that's we need to find, and part of the workshop today will be how we find the balance between your customer and you, so that you take a measured risk between those, and that's part of the validated learning. Okay, then sell or build. What do you think? Can we create a pool of questions? I'm thinking if we can do that.
Maybe.
Or we can do with reactions.
Yeah, we can do with reactions.
So just tell.
Yeah, just raise a hand who believes that you should build before selling. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 believe they should build, and we are 26 people. So 19 believes they should not build.
Well, I think there's none of this. You should test first. So basically build just a very, very minimal thing and then see how it works.
Good, and we will figure it out. Do you actually need to build something, or you can actually even not build? But very good comment. So thank you for voting, and I will share a few stories maybe on this topic. So here's a story of a startup. Basically, two seasoned entrepreneurs sold their shares in the traditional business and then decided to do a more startup-ish business, where they decided to invest most of their proceeds and dreamt about a very interesting product. They spent 140,000 to build that platform. They paid 80,000 in salaries for employees and spent 16,000 euros on marketing and advertising the platform. Then basically those 16,000 converted into 26,000 potential customers that he thought should be interested in the platform. Even if basically out of those 26, they believe that even if they achieve 5,000, that will be a very good goal. 20% conversion is very high. And if they would be able to manage 5,000 paying customers, then they will have a successful business with that conversion rate. Sadly, after launching and investing almost 250,000 euros, they realized that only 164 have converted into paying customers. So I would say they over invested into something they have not validated before. And that's also what I've done with my personal savings, just with different amounts, thanks God. Other than that, it's a typical story. So in addition to that, I would say that from my personal experience, at least 90% of startups fail because they build something that no one really needs. And only 10% fail because they sold and they cannot build what they sold. So you can also decide on what risk you better sit, whether you better sell and then have a problem on how to build it and maybe go bust because you cannot deliver, or whether you want to build and then have a problem. Okay, shit, how can I sell what I have built? And it's up on you how to do it. So I can only give you tools on how to decide where to be. Talking about best startups that have sold but failed to build, it's in my opinion, it's Terranos, a US-based startup. I think it was established also something around 2012 or around those, and still the dispute is ongoing. They raised a phenomenal amount of money in billions, and it's an incredible book called Bad Blood. It reads not as a startup book, but rather as a detective, despite that being a true story, and an investigative journalist wrote it. So I really recommend if you have time, and this will be an amusing story. Then basically we covered that. Basically how a startup founder could have reduced the risk and the potential loss of such an idea and tested. So I'm not sure if we need to drop off here with 5 minutes workshop. I think I'll better give you more use afterwards when we do some sessions. So I would rather share a story of Marketo. So basically, founders of Marketo, instead of building and testing a beta version of the product, started a blog and talked about the problems they intended to solve and checked how these topics resonate with their target audience. So in general, to actually make a blog and have readers and the readers to engage with you is already a challenging task. And it takes effort, money, and so on. So people who have the problem have to actually start Googling it. You need to know how to appear on the Google's first page, how to promote your blog. And it's a very, very good exercise, especially if you are in B2C or in the self-service segment of B2B. By using such a content strategy, Marketo not only tested the interest in the product, they've built a list of more than 14,000 interested buyers when the product came to market. So again, they had the vision of the product. Their MVP was not even a solution. It was just sharing the idea with the community and building the community. Based on that feedback from the community, only then they started to build the product. So Marketo has successfully IPO'd in 2014. The share price have since then surged a lot, and it is one of the most expensive marketing automation tools today. So this is a good example how you can actually do it with a simple test, even without the product. So what I want to emphasize here is that first, you should have a vision. It's the backbone of everything. So a vision on what problem you need to solve. Then you need to figure out whether it's a problem in general. Then you can go have a strategy on how you will go and collect your market. How will you figure out this product? How you'll bring it to life? And that's either you pivot or persevere within your strategy to go to market. And then on tactics, in general, in early stage, it's mostly about tactics. How a startup adjusts one or the other thing, and you constantly adjust it. So if you think the vision, it's a big picture. You could always envision how you will look within the next 5 years. So if you do an exercise today, just close your eyes afterwards and think, okay, how would I like to look? How my business could look in 5 years? And do it with your co-founders. Put everything on a list of paper that you believe should happen, and try to put it as close to numbers as possible. Then check it, do it separately with your co-founder, and check it how much does it have mismatches. Discuss those mismatches and align your vision. And then reverse engineer back to how can you achieve it and what do you need down the road. So on how can you achieve it, then it might transition to a strategy, and that each piece of strategy on the product, on the market, on the sales, will then have its own tactics on how you tackle it. And then the product is only the cherry on the top. You will eventually develop with your customers, preferably, or for your customers. So another interesting story to show you, and this is a more popular story. You might have heard about those few guys who actually started in San Francisco, renting a mattress in their home in 2007. And then a few people show up, rented the mattress. Then they had an idea that maybe it can become a business. No one wanted to fund them. They even went into such lengths that in order to fund themselves, they created an animated cereal like food with Obama's picture and sold it in order to fund Airbnb. So eventually, they came to realize that they cannot grow, and they did everything manually before they started scaling. One of the manual things they actually did was since they started, or they worked as well in New York City, they actually went door to door to their to the people who were listing their apartments, and took pictures, because they saw that the picture quality is very bad. Then they started growing and got more rejections from the VCs. Eventually, they got their first seed round from Sequoia, and then found a way on how to scale the operation. So it's a very, in a nutshell, story. I believe you can definitely find the more detailed stories. But what I would like to is to have an exercise with you guys, where maybe you go into small breakout rooms. I will try to put that together and discuss what 2 or more validations throughout this process they have made. So you can, I recommend, maybe do a print screen of this, so then you can go through, and in those teams just discuss where did they need it to actually validate and adjust their idea. Okay, so the exercise, write those lists. You can think of those, and then we will do another exercise on your validation, on your assumption. So let me do the breakout rooms, if I can actually do that.
You should be able to. I just made you a host, Gitana.
Okay. Do you know where it is?
At least on my computer, it was on the bottom, and it just said breakout rooms. Near the share screen, record, and all those.
Breakout room, thank you. So we are 25 people. I think we need 5 rooms. Assign automatically, create. Okay. So please do around 5 minutes on Airbnb, and then leave 5 minutes on identifying at least 3 assumptions of your own business. Okay. And then I'm opening the rooms, and we will be back at 5 minutes past 6.
mane gal į 5. kambarį ten gali atidėti. Kažkaip iškritau.
Good, thanks. How did it go?
Great.
Great.
Yeah, I think good.
Happy to hear.
I just
Let's wait for your colleagues. You were the first ones to come back. Did you have disagreements? Some other ideas?
Franciscus and Karina knows.
I think it was more that we had one first idea where everyone agreed, and then this was also one point, and then we searched for another one. So I think more not disagreement, more discussion about what else it could be.
Did you have time to discuss your own hypothesis as well, or assumption?
We probably missed that we had to. So yeah, we just talked about Airbnb and all those validation points inside this
which is fine. Yeah, I think more on your personal, I think you can do in the second task. And I think this still needs, you know, more brain power than just in 10 minutes. You are co-founders as well, so I think looking at the Airbnb's example is fine. Okay, I think everyone's back. Thank you for taking the time. And I saw some of the groups I jumped through had the Airbnb journey on their shared screen, so that was very helpful, I believe. So if we jump now to that journey, I at least marked up the two places where in my mind they had significant assumptions and tested it. So first of all, they made a simple website, a block with maps, and checked if anyone would show up. So they needed to put a bit of marketing effort, and they went through those 3 bullet points. Is anyone experiencing it as a problem? Are they willing to pay for it money? And do they trust these guys to actually buy from them? So that was the first assumption. They did. 2 men and 1 woman show up, paying $80 each. Then, of course, they kind of decided that it's a not bad idea, and they started building, launched, got some funding, and then understood that they're not growing. So that's where they hit the wall or a ceiling again, and they needed to rethink it in order to make sure that they can grow. And here they went and did those door-to-door pictures. I think even before, and this is not where it's not shown here. Even before, they asked people to do photographs of themselves, and understood that those pictures actually were shit, and no one wanted to trust those listings with bad pictures. So I also read somewhere that at some point they were more eager to onboard people or hosts that had the hobby of photography than anyone else. So then they knew that those people will be able to do pictures themselves. And they, as well, before scaling, they went and did manual pictures themselves. So talking about scalable startups doesn't seem very scalable when you need to go physically and take pictures. So I would say those were the main two hypotheses they tested and pivoted and changed during the process. Outlined here, I believe there were more. Maybe someone of you can add where you had as well discussion. So maybe I missed something.
We had in our group discussion about these points, and actually we did a third one about that famous musician. And it is because when the famous people are into, there's 2 things. So one thing is like validation. Mm-hmm. The famous person validated. So most of the people who are still not sure, is it okay or is it not? And when the famous and people are joining, it's like, you know, legit, and I can start using it, and you can get more attention. And also you can use it as a marketing, like even this person is using, so it's okay.
Yeah, very good, Daro. I believe so too. I think maybe it was not, I think it's also a good hypothesis to validate. If you're able to have a famous person promoting your brand, then you can test whether it helps or not helps, in the sense that you will definitely have a quite large exposure. So this is also part of validation, but eventually you need to maybe at that point be quite prepared to take in or take on the demand that might come from there. Anyone else wants to add anything here? If not, then let's move on. So this is what I really wanted to share with you guys. and this will be a part of your homework. So if you can take a screenshot of it, because basically on this matrix, when you write your assumptions that needs validation, think of them through those 2x2 axes. So there's assumptions that if they are easy to validate and will kill you if they're wrong, this is the priority. So you should start in this area. This is where you prioritize. Easy to test and will kill you if you get them wrong. So then the exercise in general for the workshop session in your teams will be to create a list of assumptions. Just blindly put all the assumptions that come to mind, and then try to place them on a drawing of this kind of matrix. Then you have assumptions that are easy to validate, but won't kill you. Then you have assumptions that are hard to validate and will kill you, and that are hard to validate and won't kill you. So I think the key priority area for any startup to start is here, in validating their ideas, and then moving up here. And you can disregard definitely these two.
Can you explain what here and here is? Because we don't see your mouse.
Sorry. So the priority should be will kill and easy to test. And the second priority, or a more lengthier approach, should be to the ones that will kill but are hard to validate. And here you should probably involve mentors, advisors, or industry experts that maybe their knowledge can help you into moving to easier. So for instance, I want to build a rocket to fly to the moon or wherever, you know, and my assumption is, you know, maybe it will be easier to sell tickets to that rocket or create a subscriber list than actually to build it. So I first can validate, can I actually get the audience that will want to fly to the moon? And then somehow I need to test, is it feasible under this pricing constraint or wherever my vision is, under this constraints to actually build it? And that will be hard to test because you cannot build it. So I would really try to figure out how you validate those assumptions that are hard, maybe through some market research or so on. But definitely the consumer facing assumptions are easier to test, and you should focus there, at least in the beginning. And if they're check marked, then you have the capacity to invest in the other. And the bottom two, you can actually disregard. Any questions here?
Yes, can you show us where we should or would want to be in this picture? So
sorry, Tade, can you repeat, please?
Yes, so let's imagine I have a case where validation is easy, it won't kill me, and it will have big impact. So where in this picture I would point, like where I would be? Because I see it, but I'm not sure I understand it entirely.
Good question. So impact is will kill or won't kill. There's no other impact.
Okay, so meaning will kill, it means that we invest too much effort and we waste our resources and we closed, or what?
No, can you share what you have in mind, and then we can
okay
walk on.
Okay, let's say I want to spend a big budget on advertising to have a huge wave of new customers.
So your assumption then will be, can I attract 1,000 customers with a budget of 5,000 euros?
Let's say.
So to be specific, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So if you cannot attract them, I think it might kill you. Mm-hmm. Because if your service LTV, lifetime value, is mm-hmm. lower than your customer acquisition cost, it mm-hmm. will kill your business model. Mm-hmm. I think you have a threshold. So let's say 5 euros per attracted customer, because lifetime value is maybe 6 or 7 or 10 euros. And if you're above this mark of LTV, then either you need to figure out a different customer acquisition model. But if you operate under this customer acquisition model, it will kill you as a business. You are no longer profitable.
Okay, I see.
Make sense?
Okay, but how, for example, in this status case, it could work? For example, let's say you will get 1,100 customers and you cannot deliver the service to them. So it was more than you expected.
So there's a few ways on how to approach that. So one, you can run it. Can you hear me or?
Yeah, I can hear
you. Yeah, something was lagging. So there's two ways on how to approach it. So if you look at Marketo example, they started with the blog. You can start attracting the people to the blog. Another very good example is Tesla. So you're creating a waiting list. If you want to move in the waiting list, pay €5. If you want to actually get the service, pay €10. So wherever you can figure it out, and or you can service 100 accounts, and after you have 100 accounts, you are putting everyone else on a waiting list, and you are reducing your spend on the marketing. So you're not longer continuing with the marketing effort until you deliver the 100. That it's a very good question. And I believe these are the best problems a startup can have. Again, invested during the past 3 years in 48 companies, have not seen this as the biggest issue. Yes, in some cases, delivery is behind, but typically startup founders are walking with smiles in their faces when delivery is behind.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, let's then go ahead. So we have assumptions and we have hypotheses. So a hypothesis can have several assumptions behind it. And what is a hypothesis? So if-then statement that helps design and test an assumption, clarifies your current understanding of what uncertainty you seek to resolve, is specific in the action, timing, value, amount of impact. So what I mean by specific in the action, timing, value, and amount of impact is exactly what Tadas posted as a question. So you should not in your hypothesis say, I spend a lot of money and the result is this. Be specific. If I spend €1,000, I need to get this amount of traction. Otherwise, it will not be profitable. And you can go as deep as into different verticals of basically testing your different ideal customer profiles. So they can be different customer profiles with different acquisition costs. You can test various channels. They will have also different acquisition costs. So again, if you're going deeper into this, my advice would be to list out or work under your customer profile. So who is the buying persona? In B2B, it's you can frame what kind of size of companies they are, who is the decision maker, who is the user of your solution. If it's a B2C, what's the motivation to buy your solution? If it's a marketplace, then you need two of those sides. And then imagine that matrix, it becomes quite complex. So I would list out at least two, three, maybe 4 profiles, then list out the personas, try to understand how they think, how they react. If again, looking into B2B, it's very good exercise to go and look into job ads. For instance, you're selling to head of marketing. So read a few job ads that are looking for head of marketing, what language do they use, what KPIs and role descriptions do they have. Having that language in your messaging you will be way closer to marketing people than without it. So then you'll address your messaging to resonate with their objective. That's one of the tricks. If it's B2C, you need to test various channels where you can find your audience and you can find it the cheapest. And imagine this scope, how much of different hypotheses you can create. And then basically on that, what kind of assumption. So in my head, I think one of the main exercises for you guys is what needs to be tested before spending a significant amount of money and time building your startup. So before you actually engage in building the solution, is to post this question for yourself and have those easy to test assumptions that will kill you and run those experiments. So now I will give you 10 minutes in groups. I know that it's a way longer task than 10 minutes, but would be good that if you at least start with your colleagues again in those breakout rooms to discuss what's in your head and try to put it into some words, into some frames, measurable frames before getting back home and working tomorrow and the day after tomorrow on this. Okay. So I'll put you again into those breakout rooms, and then 10 minutes. So we'll be back 5 minutes past 5.
But so we need to discuss about each other's problems.
Yeah, just give each other 2 minutes and share the assumptions that you believe are easy to test and will kill you. And then we'll have a round of discussion where you had issues. Maybe a few will share their assumptions. Okay. Yeah, I need to move a few because there's some emptier rooms. Okay, open all rooms. Dar šiek tiek reikės luktelt, bet jeigu norit, galim pratęsti tą diskusiją, kuri nutrūko.
Man asmeniškai viskas pakankamai aišku. Nežinau.
Okay, brėžiniai ir kiti. Aštuoniolika sugrįžo, tai įtariu, keli atkrito, bet gal nieko baisaus.
Armina, last word. Sorry, Armina, last word was flowers. Okay, thanks.
So welcome back. Please raise hands who have some questions or would like to share what kind of assumptions you consider to be the most important for your business. Yeah, Dario, go ahead.
We discussed a lot, and the main problem is for me to tell the people how it should work my platform, and after when I can talk more, it's getting easier and more people are finding new scenarios how to use it. And in my case is to build a prototype semi-manual controlling platform and try it out with a small brand in the lower scales and see how people react to my service. After that, present that to the bigger companies and move forward if it works. If it not, try to rethink again what's wrong.
So now, Dario, you presented a tactic or maybe even a strategy. But if we look into what would be a tangible assumption that you would like to test, at least from what I hear, I hear at least, or I could make at least 3-4 assumptions from the story you presented.
And
so, for instance, if when you mentioned a small manufacturer or a small company, so I think the first assumption is, can I sell a code development project to a specific company list or a specific ideal customer profile? That would be an assumption that you could test. So an assumption would be, does companies in this sector with this size of employees and this revenue want to have a code development or are signing a code development project with me? That would be one hypothesis and one assumption. And then from there, we would define an experiment of how to validate it and what's the possible validation. But then when you're saying all of this, then the larger ones and so on, then you're not isolating it. Because maybe even, you could test vice versa. You could have a list of larger ones. You could have a list of smaller ones. And in the experiment, test the same assumption on both and see which one wants to have a code development project with you. And by code development project, I mean that, for instance, let's say if I want to build a system for my business, I go to NFQ, Telesoftas, Baltic Amadeus, wherever company out there, software development company. Now I'll say I need this cloud-based software system because I cannot find it on the market, or because my process is different than anything in the market. They will not say, okay, we will build it for you and then you'll pay if you're satisfied. Never gonna happen. They will say, pay us 20 to 50% upfront. We will show you, and halfway or in certain milestones, you'll be able to comment. Our hourly rate is this. The project fixed price is this. If we go above the scope, the price will be this. And then you pay half of it upfront. So that's how they mitigate the risk. So why in the startup world that you sell to B2B companies should be different?
Not sure how to comment in this. Just didn't look in this kind of way. So
yeah, so that's the point. That for me in this session is to bring different thinking angles to you guys, and my recommendation would be that if someone believes they need your software or the capabilities of building it, you should be able to sell it.
Okay.
Elana?
So I thought maybe you can comment on my assumptions as well.
Sure.
If you can hear me well. Okay, because while listening to you, I realized that maybe my assumptions are not that good as I thought. Absolute majority of my assumptions are about my customers, because I always thought this is the absolute heart of what I do. Assumptions are like, B2C companies need customer feedback here and now. They need to understand how to make insights from the feedback and so on, which I believe I have confirmed many times. But while listening to you, I saw that probably more down-to-earth assumption would be, can I sell my product as a service and get first 5 paying customers, for example, in the coming 1 or 2 months? Do you think that makes sense?
I think it's the best assumption.
Oh.
Then I think another assumption would be, can you actually collect the data?
Data from who? Sorry. Collect the data?
Yeah, because if you need to run a customer survey, depends on how your business model will operate. But if you need to run a survey independently from your B2B customer, then can you have a significant sample or collect it to the spec of your customer? So my approach would be to for you to get 5 orders, but then we're going to an actual experiment. So if you talk with 50 companies and you are able to collect 5 orders, then I think it's a good business model.
Afterwards, you have to make probably new assumptions and start designing new tests, right?
Exactly. And then maybe the scalability will be the issue. Maybe you need to isolate and identify different verticals on where this customer feedback is most important, how they collect it today, how can you help them improve? If they use a different service provider, how are you different, or cheaper, better, faster? Those are typically the key 3 elements.
But that will sound now very proud. But if I said that I believe I have tested most of these points that you mentioned, do you believe that my assumptions now should be mainly about just business making, nothing more?
I think they always have to be from the get-go about business making, and then the other assumptions, because in the business making process, you will get those questions. And that's where you also will validate them with your customer.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think based on what you have told me and based on those experiments that you have outlined, we can deep dive more into them on the workshop session, and between today and Wednesday you can have more thoughts on it. But the next step, so after having the assumptions and having a hypothesis, what you want to test, you will need to have an experiment on how much you want to do of the same activity and what kind of results you expect to collect in order to prove or disprove the hypothesis you had. Simone, you have a question?
Yes, I would like to go back a little to Elana's case. Maybe I'm not entirely sure now what the word assumption means, but so what is exactly her assumption? What does she assume?
Her assumption, in my understanding, is that she can acquire a customer for product A. or that customer A has a problem like. And then
but you stress out that this assumption stuff has to have numbers in them.
Yes.
So the assumption is then for the first 50 companies, I will sell 10 units. Is that
for
right?
the first 50 company interactions?
Okay.
You could say 30 will have, or 25 will have the problem, and 10 will buy.
Okay.
It could be even closer to what the price is and so on. And Elana wants to maybe add here.
No, I just wanted to add to what you then said, that the assumption was that I can sell my product as a service first, doing things manually rather than investing money into building an automated prototype. I think that was the key point, and that you can sell it.
There's automation happens only after. So Airbnb didn't automate the picture taking. They just put it on a simple ad on the website. There's no product. So the product is the ad. Similarly, as in some cases, it can be a simple spreadsheet that you hack in the background. So you don't need to build product if you can consult the customer. I guess when you're building AR and similar stuff, then you need to actually develop something. But then I think a crucial part of the experiment is can you share the expense with someone else, and not just build it on your own budget. Yes, Simone?
So Elana, you say you want to, what was about the service? Can you repeat that sentence? Product as a service.
Okay, so the point is that my goal is to build a system that is basically full automated, and the client, a company comes and he picks whatever test he wants to run with his potential customers. My idea at this moment, instead of, let's say, investing whatever 2,000-3,000 euros to somebody to build it, I'm going to companies, knock on their door and say, look, guys, they have this set of tests that I can do like in 24 hours. I will do them for you. Can you pay me like 15 euros per test? If I get orders, I have an Excel sheet with the names of the testers. I have another Excel sheet for the tests. I sit down, do everything manually, and I earn my first 15 euros. After I have done like whatever, 100 probably tests, I have earned 1,500 that I can invest into building that, all to be done automatically.
Okay.
And my suggestion, then you're not selling it as a service, you're selling a report. You pay 100 euros per report.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And then they don't need to know if you're doing it manually or not. No one cares.
I thought that was the point to say that, but if you say so, then probably not.
No point. You don't even like think of what outcome they are buying. They're buying a report. They're buying data. So you can even have a website, a simple website with Google Sheets in the background, where they fill in the data, and that can be also part of the experiment. Do they actually fill in the data? Do they understand your questions? And do they want to engage on this manual approach, or they're better engaging if you call them or have a personal meeting? That will also help you determine the price. So in my mind, if we look into every individual case you have, and we start from identifying the potential customers, their personas, and so on, we will have so many experiments down the road that you can do and cover. You just need to start with one. And then in Elana is a great example. What in my mind is an MVP. An MVP is typically not a one-time thing. You're continuously developing an MVP. So you could say Elana's first MVP is a phone call collecting the data or the request through the phone and providing a manual report. The second MVP could be, can her website accommodate the needs and trust for a third party to put an order through the website and maybe add a credit card? The second MVP, can she actually automate the report production with some of the shelf tools like Google Docs, Google Sheets, and so on, and then be more agile on that? Can she collect the data faster? That will be different approaches on how she can build minimal products down the road until she has a product that can scale. Does it make sense, or maybe you have some questions, maybe you contradictions and so on? So then, if you're all silent, I would suggest to have another yes, Davide.
It's just a brainstorm. The idea that I had. Can we call like the minimum viable product like minimum sellable product or something like that? Is that a like correct description as well?
Yeah, that would be a correct description.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Anything. So in my mind, if you sell yourself as a consultant to build something or improve a system, to me, it's already a minimal viable product. Because first of all, you get experience from the customer on what they need. Secondly, you will already get credibility. So for instance, one of our, or even several of our portfolio companies have sold consultancy type of projects to huge companies like BASF, like Daimler, Thermo Fisher, and so on. And the key there is that they're still doing manually their projects in their laboratories or software development houses, or implementing it manually for those large corporates. But basically they receive huge amounts of money, like hundreds of thousands of euros for those consultancy projects, on which they build their final scalable product. But they're working on concrete customer data, they're working on a concrete issue, and they are working with relevant people. And then they can also put their logos. I work with Daimler, I work with BASF, I work with Thermo Fisher. And when they will have that scalable product, those customers will already trust that they can deliver. And they have already the foot in the door. Yes, we cannot claim that this project is monthly recurring revenue or annual recurring revenue. It's a one-off payment, mainly paid a bit in advance, and then once they finish the project. But still, for any kind of venture capital firm, this is a huge indication that the team can execute and sell. Secondly, we can call an actual customer. And thirdly, they're working on a specific problem that is important both to them and to the customer.
Gitanis?
Yes.
I wanted you to help me, because let's say for this exercise, I'm not sure what I should do, but I want to have this time useful.
Of course.
So for the key assumption hypothesis design, the most simple MP you can think. I mean, I have my idea in my head. What I should do is just about time that it has to be done. I don't know what I should think of.
So if I understand your idea, it's matching students with teachers.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. So in my head, a simplest MVP would be, can I have 30 teachers on my Excel spreadsheet? And can I onboard at least 5 requests per day through social media or other channels to the same spreadsheet? You can have a nice website interface that connects with Google Docs and those spreadsheets. And then each evening you sit down for an hour and match those teachers with those students.
Okay. Okay. So
that's a simple MVP.
Okay. So what we have now is that we have clients coming to us. We have students coming to us, and we are doing a ton of manually work to match them.
Yeah.
So we want to simplify it. So you would use it as Uber or other apps. So you choose time, tutor, subject, and you start studying. So I'm just thinking, I mean, I have it in head, so I'm not sure what I should think of next.
But then I think the second stage, so if you already have solid traffic that you cannot no longer process manually, then you should think of how you can scale it. But as long as you can process manually, I think the key essence would be to how can you collect the traffic cheaper and faster and better.
Okay, makes
and
sense.
only then scale the engine inside. So also, Tade, what's I would focus on your end on what are the economy of scale or even economy in your business. So how many orders you need to have per day in order for you to earn 10,000 euros per month.
Mm.
So I would try to focus on that, and then in general to understand whether it's feasible to even have it within Lithuanian market. Because I assume you get a margin from the transaction between the student and the teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once they met, do they need your platform or not?
So currently, yes, and looking forward, yes. Yeah.
So yeah, so then how many transactions, how many times you can sell to the same user, same teacher, how long they're staying in the platform. This is other assumptions and other experiments. Also, maybe, you know, if you brokered, I don't know, 100 of those deals, talk to Alana and figure out a way how to collect their feedback.
Okay.
Do they recommend to other students where the biggest source comes?
Okay, I see. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yep. Anyone else has questions before this third exercise? Okay, then let's jump to those breakout rooms. Sveiki sugrįžę.
Hello, hello.
How did it go?
The third one was the slowest.
This one was the
Yeah,
slowest.
pretty difficult.
Okay, so maybe let's then focus a bit on your observations, questions, and if someone wants to go ahead, or
I can start as always. We were talking because in my team I have a CTO and senior programmer, so it's a bit cheaper and easier for us to build our platform and make a prototype working without, very fancy stuff. Just, step by step working from beginning to the end, and to go to the customers with already working prototype, because it will be much easier for the customers to understand and to try it, because we are selling B to C. We're selling B2B, and that business are selling to their customers and presenting as their product add-on or feature. So at the end, the customers are who are using it, and B2B, our sector, is who buying the features.
But Nairo, so you, I'm maybe a bit challenging you now, and then we can have a one-on-one session afterwards to discuss it. But don't you think that in essence, if you're building it without an order, you're in a way wasting CTO and another senior developer time? Because if you finally will not able to get that order, or they will need to rebuild it, you will lose part of their motivation.
No, because actually we are in the same boat. We're believing things in these, and it doesn't need to building like monthly for 2, 3, 4 months or whatever. It needs, let's say, 5 days of building it, testing it. The basic model doesn't require.
Okay. No, 5 days. It's not a big investment. But then, in essence, when you say it's a B2B, and then your customer needs to transfer it to their B2C customers, what is exactly that you're offering him, your B2B customer? Why, for what he's paying? Not functionality, but the benefit he gets.
A few things. One thing is personal. His customer can personalize his product, and he also can have an angle of marketing his product, adding up this system as a feature of his product.
But this is not the benefit, because exactly. Will I reduce cost? Will I increase revenue, or do what? Why should I bother with you? In order, how will I benefit?
You will earn more money, because people have not the same product as others on the shelf, but the same product with the feature which nobody else around this product has.
Okay, and how will I know that I will earn more money? Because the first sale in your case will be the most difficult one, because you don't have track record. And that's why it's always the first sale is the most tricky one. In my experience, it doesn't really matter whether you have the product, or you will come and offer this as a consultant to build for them, because they might have already a vision on where they want to go, strategic one.
Okay, at the beginning, of course, at the beginning, I will give this product to try out for free. So there will be, if it doesn't work, they will not lose anything, and they don't have to pay for anything. And you can discuss with the customer, like, you will try out this for 2 or 3 months if you're okay with this, or 1 month or 2 weeks, whatever. If you're okay and you would like this, we can work more and to specify just for your needs and start building as a fully
This sounds
working.
like a charity.
No, because we are trying to.
But none of the B2B products are free of charge. No one is doing B2B free of charge.
You know, but it's like giving a freemium.
But
You're giving
B2B doesn't have freemium, especially if it's larger accounts with products. Freemium is for end users, for B2C. In B2B, it's called charity. There's no freemium. How it's done, it's rather you give a money back guarantee. If it has not achieved your KPIs or the KPIs we put in the project, it's a money back guarantee. Also not recommended, but possible. Another way is a pilot project. They pay for your time and effort. They take the risk. You take as well the risk. And if you don't achieve the KPI, they have a right not to continue. If you achieved the KPIs that you agreed, they need to pay the full price and enroll further. This is how it's done in B2B. Otherwise, you look very, very inexperienced, and in the sense that, first of all, you are not talking with the right or the decision maker, because any intern can say, we try it free of charge. What's the commitment? Secondly, they might not even look at you seriously, because who works for free? So I would, with all my heart, would recommend not do it for free.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yeah, Lana.
I want to ask what you mean by saying a pilot project. Is it something that you, as a contractor, provide services for a few months or so?
I would say I also don't really like the word pilot project. I would say it's more planned rollout. So let's say if I have 3 product lines on which I could use Darius's QR codes or whatever product it is. We test it with a small batch of 100 units and see my end customer reaction. Are they engaging with that solution? Can I promote it? Does it give better returning customer acquisition? Wherever are the KPIs? And if I hit those KPIs, then I can engage further. For instance, an example, maybe if you go to Iki supermarket here in Lithuania, you might have seen Walk 15 ads with Vlada on them. So this is a portfolio company, and that project is not in all the shops of Iki. It's quite in a few shops, but it's also a planned rollout project, or a pilot project if you want. It's a paid project where Vlada or the startup needs to bring additional traffic and increase sales of Iki in those specific outlets. They have set up certain KPIs, and if it does achieve that target, then next year it will be evaluated to go beyond those 70 or how many stores there are into all of the stores, and maybe have potential to expand to the whole group of Iki, which is Reve Group. So that's how I would frame it. You know, what's the minimum amount? What do you want to test? And of course, businesses invest into testing new acquisition channels. Of course, businesses are testing new innovative approaches to engage with their customers. You just need to hit the right person who has this KPI on his table and has it as a problem. And they do typically have a budget to do those tests. And Darius is a competent person to give him a solution. He might agree with Darius' observation or he might disagree. But whether it's free or paid, it will not matter. I think if you will engage with that person with the paid version and eventually he comes and says, no, this is too expensive, but I really believe in what you do, then you can figure out what could be the price. Maybe it can be deferred to the next year's budget. Maybe it can be something else that they can give you. But typically, I have not seen that if a buyer wants a product, a price is the issue. Did I answer your question, Elena?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else, or let's go further? We have not so much time and still a few topics to cover. So validated learning is exactly, we went, maybe it's a bit mixed between assumption, hypothesis, and then the minimal viable product. But basically, the MVP is the experiment on which you measure the results and collect data on learning what's the outcome. So also what I would like to emphasize is that one of the key things what you can read in Lean Startup is that being first in the market, which everyone wants to be, doesn't really matter that much. What matters the most is not to be in stealth mode, away from customers, as it will never provide you a head start. So as long as you sit at home or in your research facility and not talking to customers, it doesn't provide you any head start. And the only way to win is to learn faster than others. And here's a few ways on how you can engage. So if you look into B2B, it's a typical sales funnel: qualify, discover, sell, and close. And there's two ways into how you bring leads into your funnel. It's either outbound or inbound. So what is outbound? Outbound, when you have an understanding who's your ideal customer profile, who's the persona, and you find those companies proactively, find the people, reach out to them, emphasizing what is their pain and offering a painkiller. When you talk to them and are able to describe their pain better than they can themselves, then they hold you as an expert. And that's how you can start. Typically, it doesn't really matter whether it's inbound or outbound. You need to know all of it. And outbound is typically cheaper in the beginning because you can have a dedicated sample and it's less scalable. Inbound will be more expensive in essence, that you will need to spend money on marketing, and you'll need to target the same ideal customer profiles, personas. Just in this case, they will need to find you and come to your website and request a demo or come with the pain. So sometimes it's easier to talk to them about the pain and adjust it and get instant feedback than post online and see if someone comes in. But again, it's up to you on choosing which strategy works for you. When it comes to more B2C products, there's again different channels. So how to acquire those visitors, and it's important, like on each of those channels, as in the funnel, the activation, retention, and revenue will differ. So in a nutshell, what I want to show you is this. So the key essence is you're spending money on acquiring new users. You have active users, and depends on how many holes your bucket has, meaning churn, whether you can retain them in the bucket or whether they're dropping out. So if the bucket is filling up, you have a business. If the bucket is not filling up, but you need to spend more and more money to fill up the bucket, but it drains the same as fast as you burn the cash, you don't have a business. And as soon as you try to understand your pricing and how it works, the better it is. And think of it as a bucket with holes. Then a few ideas to share with you where you can actually find customers is, first of all, look in your personal network. These people already know you, they trust you, and if they don't buy from you, no one else will. Then I would recommend cold calling and testing your value proposition throughout those calls. Can you get in touch with people? Check if you can appear on Google's first page. How expensive is that? And can it be a sustainable strategy? Social network groups, sometimes partnerships work, different advertising channels. As simple as going outside the building, but it's more of a joke. You can also acquire users through paid channels. And I think the 2, 9, and 10, I would really recommend if you're running a B2C product, a hardware product or a physical product, I would recommend Kickstarter. If you're doing software as a service product and you already have a built prototype, maybe a bit clunky and not working or working partly, I would definitely recommend to look into AppSumo, as you can acquire a critical customer base there of paid users. Any questions here?
Yeah, I have a quick question about acquiring new customers. You said that like if the bucket is filling up, you can run business. Does it mean that you constantly need to get new customers, and like how many is okay? Like, is this like,
no, in order to grow, you constantly need to get new customers. And so then then you measure the stickiness of the customer. So if, let's say, to acquire a customer, it costs 10 euros and they spend within a year 100 euros, and they stay for 3 years, your lifetime value of a customer is 300. If you pay 10 euros and the customer leaves in 2 months, your lifetime value is 20. But if you need to pay 20 euros to acquire them and they leave you next month, you don't have a business.
And you're also talking about paid customers, correct?
There's no other customers.
Well, for example, like Vinted, right? They have plenty of users, but not
users, not customers. There's no other customers who are not customers pay.
Okay, it's all
users don't pay.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Then I would really recommend to avoid this mentality. Just build it and they will come. This never happens, or only in fairy tales. And also, I would not recommend doing a strategy to spray and pray with advertisement. It's too expensive. Nowadays, it's very expensive. So do a very isolated test on different advertising channels and cut losses quickly. So if you tried Facebook, a specific target group, and within, I don't know, 200 euros, it didn't yield any results, drop it, try a different one. So that's how I would do it, or how I would recommend it. Then how shall you test your hypothesis? I think I would like to leave it for your homework. And we could start the discussion with exercise 4 in the workshop on Wednesday. So knowing that we have those 3 exercises on what assumptions, what is a hypothesis, what could be the MVP. Now we looked in how to possibly you could test the MVP. I think what I would expect in the workshop to work more maybe individually on each of your cases, where you could present my key assumptions are this. I would like to test this hypothesis, and I believe to test this hypothesis, I need an MVP of this. And to get the data, I will engage with this kind of customers in this way interaction. And if I get X, then Y will prove that my hypothesis is correct. Do you agree with this kind of exercise?
Yep.
Yep. Then also what I wanted to show you as a framework, and I think Darius challenges me a lot on this. So if you have a straight line, so you are here and the customer is here. There's several ways to position yourself on this line. Preferably, you would like that the customer pays the full fee up front and you develop to the customer spec, but have all the IP rights afterwards. So then customer has all the risk, he paid and you might not deliver. However, in Darius' approach, what Darius wants is that he has all the risk. So he develops the product, he comes, the customer has a free trial period, can test. If he likes it, then he buys it. And then Darius has all the risk, or your startup has all the risk. So my advice is to find a balance somewhere on this line. It may be here, it may be here, it may be here. And I have found startups all over this place. So I think this approach is closer to a B2B operation, but on the other end, when you are launching a Kickstarter campaign, you're actually here. All the customers prepay.
Just want to remember that we don't see them out.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. So if you're launching a Kickstarter campaign in the B2C field, your customers take all the risk. So basically, they prepay for everything. And then you have the cash flow to actually develop it. So those systems are already in place. You just need to use them. When you have a B2B conversation, you can even draw this line and have a conversation saying, come on, guys, if you want this software, you can go to Telesoftas, you can go to an FQ and pay them 20–30% retainer and they will develop it. First of all, more expensive than I'm offering. Second of all, let's split the risk. So if you have recently bought, or during the past, I don't know, 10 years, bought an apartment, from a blueprint, you take quite a bit of developer risk because you need to prepay between 50–25% in down payment without even sometimes a construction permit for that developer. So somehow it's normal to pay as an individual from 10 to 50 or even more thousand euros and wait for 2 years until your apartment will be built. So I'm just challenging you that you need to not only take full risk on yourself, but figure out where is a good balance. As already mentioned, never do free trial. They are useless in B2B. Pilot projects without defined KPIs is also useless because it doesn't, your counterparty doesn't commit. So at least you need to understand what you need to deliver during a pilot project for your counterparty, what results they're looking for. And of course, things change. They might still not buy. but at least you will define it well in the beginning, and then the counterparty hopefully will honor the agreement. And then coming back to the same 3 points, do customers recognize they have a problem you are trying to solve? If there was a solution, would they buy it from you? Would they buy it, and would they buy it from you? So I think of those questions before you go out there and try to measure. So the key things for the workshop would be to go through those exercises. I think Victoria from TechHub, it's already in your drive. You can go through the presentations and look. Then 3 things, once you develop the experiment, there are 3 things that you should strive to achieve. So that each customer becomes profitable. You need to look at cost of acquiring a new customer versus the churn rate. So the lower the cost and the lower the churn rate, the better your growth will be, because you will be retaining a lot of cash in the bucket, and the bucket will not be leaking. Then repeat purchase rate of existing customers is also a very important metric to look if you can re-engage with them. If you acquired customer expensively, how else can you, what else can you sell to them? How else can you re-engage? How else you can offer the product? A simple matrix for those who are in the B2B space. So on the bottom axis, we have complexity, and on the vertical axis, we have price. This is purely for the B2B startups. In complexity, I mean, are you selling a complex product that needs explaining and that needs integrations with other systems? So a very complex product would be something like Oracle, SAP, sold to large corporates for millions of euros and a few years of integration. A very simple on the same axis product would be something like Asana, Trello, Magento, Shopify, which is sold to solopreneurs who come in on the website. I need the process management tool. I need the website. I need the e-commerce shop, add their credit card and onboard themselves. And then somewhere in between, between the self-service and the large enterprise mall, there's mid-sized companies, SMBs, and there are products for them. If you're selling a complex product for a low price, you're in the graveyard. And pricing, if you go through those metrics, ACV stands for annual contract value. Then sales model stands for whether in self-service, the customer needs to come to you. Inside sales means that you can conduct sales online, so via demo call, but you don't need to meet in person, fly across the world, and so on. And inside plus outside sales would mean that you actually need to meet the customers in person. Typically, there's a few decision makers, and the process is lengthy. So you also have sales cycle indicated there. Then please note and take more caution on the billing frequency. So if you're in self-service, it's fine to charge monthly or yearly with a huge discount. If you're up in the market and selling to SMBs or enterprise customers, my advice would be to try and charge yearly. First of all, the main thing is that then customers are financing your growth. They prepay for the 12-month subscription and you get cash in advance. And then you can use that cash for further fostering growth. TAM stands for total addressable market. And in this chart, it doesn't show billions of dollars or euros or whatever. It says how many customers, potential customers in a specific market segment you should have potential. So meaning that you, in your CRM, need to capture the total addressable market. So let's say I'm looking for HR recruitment consultancies that are larger than 50 people, but smaller than 500 people. And using LinkedIn, I can capture my total addressable market in Scandinavia or in Germany by running a dedicated search. And I can then targetedly approach this segment through outbound messaging. And churn we already covered. Any questions for this chart?
I have a question. Is it possible to have a product aligned to different, I don't know how to say, like that's upper, for example?
Very good question. And yes, typically products can start in different of those quadrants. My advice would be to focus on one of them, which has best traction. And of course, then some of the well-known products are across all three matrices. So they just have different sales teams, depending on which part of the matrix they target. So in self-service, it will be heavy on marketing, and it will require a very good customer acquisition funnel in terms that it's very clear on how to use the product, how to onboard myself, how to start using the system. Whereas this can be solved in the enterprise level through an onboarding workshop, through different cases, So Oracle products are typically not user-friendly. Anyone else, or can we move forward? Then if we look a combination of this empty bucket, I would say, first of all, you need to have a growth engine. Look how to start this growth engine. How can you drive traffic towards where you want? Then check if you have a desirable registration rate, activation rate. Do customers refer? Do they renew? And then only you can count your lifetime value of a customer and how it looks. So for those in the B2C segment, I would look through this matrix when trying to develop a test. So this is maybe something for the homework, but I would rather suggest you look and do those exercises, and from those exercises drive what's your assumption, hypothesis, MVP, and test method. And what measurable outcomes do you want to achieve? So it's in a way a summary here, and then you can also go through this vertical. You can measure the problem, you can measure the solution, you can measure the segment, you can measure the price, and you can measure the customer acquisition channel. So you can have a different hypothesis and experiment through all of those 5 segments if you want, or just focus on one. It depends on you, which one you believe is the most important one. And it's a bit different question. Do customers recognize they have a problem? Can you count the return on investment? For how much would they buy the solution? Does it resonate with the return on investment calculation? And maybe the last question for you, do you know what is AI?
Artificial intelligence.
Yes, Igne, I also thought the same way. So I'll give you a brief story for the ending. So one of my most memorable startup pitches we have a call. I have a call with this Finnish startup. Very, very exciting presentation. He told his personal story. Basically, I will try to tell it in a nutshell. He developed a startup before. He had a development team, regular story. They built the product. The product was not able to find customers. The team went under, and the developers went to work into some other companies. He also went to work to a different company. Eventually, one day he's sitting and understanding that there's an idea. So he thought of an idea that when he was buying headphones on Telia's website, he wanted to also look for reviews on the headphones. But Telia's website didn't have many reviews. And he went outside to Amazon and eventually completed the purchase on Amazon. So then he started to think, why did I buy on Amazon and why didn't I buy on Telia? So Telia lost a customer. And then he thought, okay, if I would collect the reviews from Amazon or from other sources and would be able to aggregate them and show them on Telia's website, Telia would have more reviews and maybe some customers would not leave. So he went back to his development team and asked if they could build this. They said, of course we can, but we will not build until you have the customer. So he went and it sounds simple. He went and actually sold it to Elisa, who is Telia's competitor in Finland. And then Telia called him in a few weeks and said, we want it too. So they sold a development project for those two companies, and the IT team has started development. And then he says, so Gitanis, we started developing and we installed AI. And he asked me the same question, what is AI? And I'm thinking, okay, there's something hidden. I think I know what's AI, as Ignas answered, artificial intelligence. But then I asked, okay, so what is it? And then he says, we employed the army of Indians, 50 Indians from India, to actually collect on specific products those reviews. Totally not scalable, but still AI. So the whole idea is that don't try and build scalable products from the beginning. Both as Airbnb did in the beginning, as many other founders, try to sell yourself, because in the essence, your first customer will buy you and will buy into the pain they have, rather than a nicely looking solution. So a takeaway, please think of how can you use an army of Indians or an army of Lithuanians or Pakistanians or whoever in order to help you leverage your hacked solution. Okay?
Yep.
And happy to take any questions if you have, or then you can save them for Wednesday and we can have a more fruitful discussion there.
Can we just summarize the homework? I think
sure.
I marked Summit.
I would like from each of you to have a descriptive experiment, what you want to do, what you will validate, what outcomes you believe you need to achieve in order to have a sustainable business. So look through the framework that we discussed in the beginning. Look through this framework and select the most important parts that you have that will kill you and easy to test. and let's create an experiment around it. And the experiment will both include the hypothesis, the MVP, and the channels you want to test through.
Sorry, Gitanis, could you please explain one more time, maybe in 2 or 3 sentences, the difference between assumption and hypothesis?
So hypothesis is what I assume that, let's say, 10 customers will buy. So a hypothesis is more broader in my understanding. If I reach out to 100 customers, 10 customers could buy. Or my assumption is that this customer segment is the best for me. And then the hypothesis would be on top of that, on how I will frame a broader view. So I think in essence, you should not look into that detailed, whether an assumption or a hypothesis. I think you should look in more how important this assumption, whatever, or hypothesis is to your business in helping you to validate whether it's true or not. Anything else?
I actually have one more question.
Go ahead.
I'm only curious, now we have these 30-minute sessions this week. I know that with other mentors, you can write and ask for another session. Is it the same with you, or is the time super limited and this is this week only?
This week is not possible to have more of the sessions, but I would be glad to have them next week. So please reach out and over email. My email is here. And then happy to arrange them. Okay, if it's that, then
that's all for today. Yeah.
Mario, I didn't hear it.
Finished today, yes.
Yeah, today then we're finished. Thank you, and see you on Wednesday, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 So gero, ačiū.
Iki.
Okay, einu sukt galvą.
Sėkmės.